Hey guys, what's going on? This is your boy Christian Israel, and you are listening to the New Creation Capital Podcast, a place where we discuss what happens in the world today, where we talk about stories that focus on current events, the stock market, and digital assets. Our model is a new you, a new future, and a new creation. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today is April 3rd, 2020, and there's a lot of things going on. But before we dive into the story of the day, let's look and see what's going on in the headlines right now, because the number one thing that has spiked, that jumped out to everybody, was the headline today that unemployment claims spiked to new records last week, with 6.6 million Americans filing for aid. According to this Fox Business article, economists had expected the number of Americans filing for unemployment to top 3 million once again. However, it doubled that to 6.6 million people. That says here the number of Americans filing claims for unemployment benefits surged to more than 6.6 million last week, breaking a record high for the second week in a row as more states and cities enforce strict stay-at-home measures in an attempt to stop the coronavirus pandemic. Claims between the period of March 21st and March 28 blew past the previous week's record of 3.3 million, according to the weekly jobs claims reported from the Labor Department published on Thursday. The previous week's total was revised higher by 24,000 people. You can see here on this chart that we've been sitting under a 1% overall unemployment benefits since January of 1980. And it's just kind of moved and moved. And then there's a big spike to 4%, which means 6.6 million claims represents 4% of the workforce as of March 28th, 2020. So 4% of everyone working right now, or that was working, has filed for unclaimed insurance, which is crazy. You can catch the rest of the story in the link. Let's jump onto something else. Is that we know the founder of Ripple, of XRP, which we talk about a lot on our show, Chris Larsen. His Twitter handle is @ChrisLarsenSF for San Francisco. He posted something on Twitter today about 2:43, so about an hour ago at the time of this recording, that he says, "Thank you to everyone on the front lines keeping us safe. I'm truly grateful to report that I've made a full recovery from COVID-19. If you recover from the virus, please consider donating your blood to help with antibody transplants." And then he puts a link to ourblood.org. So obviously he has had COVID-19 and he's now making a recovery. There's a picture of him getting an IV. He's got an N95 mask on, giving a thumbs up, and a chair there next to some kind of machine. So here at New Creation Capital Podcast, Mr. Chris Larsen, we want to pray for you and wish and congratulate you on making a healthy recovery. And I know there are some stories out there that are much more dire and more important, but every life is important on this station, on this podcast. And Chris Larsen, we're happy and grateful that you are making a good recovery. Prayers out to you, my brother. Moving on to the next story, which actually launched yesterday, is Swift's major announcement slips under the radar. Now, this was put out by FinExtra.com. And here's what the article says. It's written by, looks like, Andy Schmidt, who is the VP and Global Industry Lead and Banking CGI. And it says here, on March 12th, the Swift Board of Directors quietly issued a huge announcement about the future direction of the business. An announcement that is probably the most significant since the business was formed back in the early 1970s. The bold new vision of Swift shows real global ambition, but is the timing wrong? Just as the world ducks away from globalization under the shock of COVID-19. Swift had decided to take on a global card players, Visa and MasterCard, and have thrown their hats into the ring to become the global connector for account-to-account A-to-A payments. Okay, this is what they announced. Swift will enable instant and fractionless payments from account to account anywhere in the world with an end-to-end solution that combines international and domestic capabilities. This ambitious platform expansion means Swift will support financial institutions to strengthen their position in business-to-business payments and capture new value SME and consumer segments. Now, basically, for you guys who don't know, more of this article will be posted in the links below. But Swift uses R3, which also is, remember we talked about XRapid and R3, which is a platform of Ripple and XRP. They have combined. So Swift now is launching that as a movement because remember we heard Chris Larsen say in that FinTech conference interview that it's not just XRP, it's going to be a bunch of people together. So they are teaming up and we will continue to dive in those in later episodes. That's pretty much the major news today. Let's dive into the markets and see what's going on. According to CoinGecko.com, which we're using today, the market cap for the total cryptocurrency is up 8.1%. You guys know we've had some moving and shaking today. Bitcoin has actually topped out today so far at $7,269, and it had a bottom around 6,500, I think. Yeah, around 6,500 was the bottom. So we had a nice little $1,200 pump today. Over the last hour, however, we're down a little under 2%, but on the day we're up 6.3%, sitting around 67.11. Ethereum also had a little bit of a pump, up 0.59% on the day, but in the past hour down a little under 2%, sitting at 138.99. XRP I saw broke 19 cents. I got a notification it broke 19 cents on Coinbase. However, it's down to 17.5%, only up on the day 2.2%, but overall in the week 8.6%. So that's pretty awesome. Let's dive over and see what happened in the actual stock market, because we know they closed. They had a nice little movement today. The Dow finished up 2.24%, sitting around 21,413. The S&P 500 finished up 2.28%, around 25.26. The NASDAQ finished up 1.72%, around 74.87. Gold finished up 3.11%, around 1640, and the big mover today out of all these things was oil, up 22.85%, sitting around $24.94. So if you did catch that bottom in oil and caught it around $20, you made 22% on your money, 23% on your money today. So congratulations. Now, the story of the day is a little different. There's been a lot of speculation going on Twitter to this 5G thing. So 5G, for you guys don't know, is a new cell phone technology that's supposed to help all these downloads and instant transactions and instant media and text messages move even faster. I decided to do some research on my own last night into this topic and found some interesting articles and interviews and videos. Obviously, I can't share the videos with you, but I can share the audio from these videos. What I'm going to play for you today is an interview that happened on November 28th, 2019. And it is with Patrick Bet-David. He was interviewing General Robert S. Spalding. You know, he wrote a book talking about how while America slept, China took over. It was a #1 seller at one point, but this interview is interesting. It's only about 9 minutes. And after you guys listen to this interview, we'll kind of dive into some questions and some topics. I don't know if you guys have Googled what's going on with 5G and around the world, but I've just seen some really interesting things which caused me to dive into it. So let's dive into today's story, which is called The Threat of 5G.
When I think Trump tweeted out something in 2014, and he said, remember, China is not our friends or not our ally. And it got like 300 retweets. It wasn't something big. He tweeted this back in 2014 or 2015. And then all of a sudden, you know, one day, everybody in the news is talking about 5G. And prior to that day, we weren't really talking about it. And all of a sudden, hey, we got to be the leader in 5G. I'm like, 5G? So I'm going to start looking 5G. Okay, 1G, 2G, 3G. 1G is the regular phone back in the days. 2G is whatever. 3G is the iPhone, you know, and then 4G is the latest phone. And then now 5G is going to be changing the game. And most people go to, well, 5G is just a faster phone. Right? Because that's what initially, we've always seen the G linked to a phone. Oh my gosh, I can download a movie in 3.6 seconds now on Netflix, a 2-hour movie, where before it was 3 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever, right? When you think about 5G, what do you think about of 5G and the capabilities and what it can really do to whoever that has access to it?
That's a good question. So if you go back to 2007, when the iPhone came out.
2007.
The top 5 in market cap were AT&T, General Electric, Microsoft, ExxonMobil, and Shell. Right? The phone comes out in 2007. I had one, 3G network. It's not a very good experience. 4G network comes out. By the way, we're the second country in the world to build a 4G network. Now you've got something, right? So when Steve Ballmer laughed at Steve Jobs, said, we don't need one of those. When you took the platform, which was the iPhone, and you married it up to the 4G network, which was the pipe for data, and it was a fast enough pipe, now you could create the apps, services, and business models that in 10 years led to the top 5 in market cap being Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and Microsoft, right? So the Chinese see this and they're like, the platform and the pipe. So the smartphone, this iPhone, which was the first one, then Android. So Apple and Google, right, dominate the mobile platform that the app services and business models of that economy are built on. Now look at the iPhone. It's a hardware, software, tightly integrated, closed-walled system like Steve Jobs liked, and the data was encrypted. Why was the data encrypted? Why did San Bernardino happen? Because Apple's an American company, right? They know you want privacy. They encrypt their phone. So now you've got the platform, and Android also went on to encrypt their platform. So both encrypted, right? So private devices. Take the cloud away from it. Just look at the device itself.
Sure.
It's meant to be a private device.
Right.
Why? It's American product. Fast forward, to 2009. China starts to look at that. Says, okay, we want to dominate the next level, right? Not just the technology. We want the apps, services, and business models to be Chinese companies. And so Huawei gets hundreds of billions of dollars to develop 5G and ZTE. But then you have Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. So they're behind the Chinese firewall. They're protected. You can't have the fangs going in there. It's just the bats that control the e-economy within China. And then you start, at the same time you're developing 5G, right, the platform, and I'll get to that in a second, but you're also developing Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. So now when you walk into, and you're starting to see the emergence of the 5G world in China. So you walk into a restaurant after you've ordered your food, and a camera picks you up, and you say, hey, David, welcome, here's your food, right? So you're starting to get the feel of what a 5G world is. And what is a 5G world? The platform is the network. So this is mobile computing paired with a pipe. 5G is computing and networking combined on the same platform. So this goes away. You walk outside your door and you say Uber. You don't get on your phone and say, I want an Uber. You just say Uber. Camera picks up your face or a microphone picks up you.
Come on.
That's what 5G is. That's what 5G is. And then the Uber shows up. There's a camera on the car that sees you, knows who you are, don't have to ask you your name. You get in and you go to wherever you want. You get out and you go do whatever you want. So in this world, in the 4G world, this is a platform. It's yours, right? You don't want to be part of that, all of that data. Remember we just talked about how do you influence society? You don't want all that data to be out there about what you're doing. Just don't carry one of these, right? Just opt out. In a 5G world, you cannot opt out. Who owns the data? This, you could conceivably say, you lease the data on here you own. If you're getting Google services, you don't own that data. But in the 5G world, not only can you not opt out because it's built around the city, it's not in your phone anymore. Not only can you not opt out, you don't know who owns the data. Everything that you do can be watched. And for every person by 2022, there's going to be, there's 2 cameras for every person. There's two people for every camera in China by 2022.
They have 1 billion right now on surveillance.
Right,
A billion cameras in China right now.
With artificial intelligence for facial recognition, right? So all of this is getting built right now in China. And who's helping them do it? Microsoft, Google, right? All of these companies that want to deploy this world into our country. So Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, that's where the world goes. It goes from 2007, AT&T, GE, and Microsoft to the FANGs to the BATs, right? Who owns the pipes? Me as a B2 guy, the first thing I look at in the country is where's telecommunications? You've got to take that out, number one. But if rather instead of taking it out, you own or control it, so Huawei builds the pipes, then because you're behind the Great Firewall, you've built the app services and business models of the 5G world. And you're, like I said, you're already starting to see that. You know, where your facial recognition is built into your interaction when you go into a restaurant, or when you go into a store, or when you go into a bank. You know, everything's about, the device is connected. Then as you build the network, then those proliferate. So 4G network, 10,000 devices per square mile. 5G network, 3 million devices per square mile. you're not going to carry 12 smartphones. You may not even carry a smartphone.
10,000 to 3 million?
10,000 to 3 million. That's what 5G does. The connectivity explodes, right? So that allows you to put devices literally everywhere that can make your life more convenient or can track you. There's a bike in DC. It's called Mobike. Have you seen these things? They're silver and orange. Look out for them next time you're in DC. They're silver and orange, called Mobike. They had them when I was in 2016 when I get to Beijing. You take your phone, and by the way, I took a phone, right, a phone that I threw away when I got home, and I had said,
You threw it away when
I
you
threw
got
it away
home.
when I got home. Load all the apps on it that a Chinese person has so I can understand what they do. You never have to carry a wallet. You never have to carry a key. It's all done on your phone. You can pay anybody, anywhere for anything, and they do. 900 people are on WeChat, and they spend 90% of their time in app doing things, or ordering airline tickets, buying food, whatever you want. You can have anything you want.
900 people or 900 million?
900 million people. Okay, so let me explain to you how effective what they built is. I have one of the guys working for me on one of these Mobikes. Now, the Mobike it's just parked there in the street with a lock on it. You go over, you hit a QR code on your phone, it unlocks the bike, you get on it, you ride it, and you lock the bike. Okay, so where does that data go? They know it's you. You got on that bike, you went 2 locations, okay, or you went to a location, so that data is available. So I have one of my guys, he gets on a Mobike, rides somewhere, has his iPad in the basket, gets off the bike, comes back to the embassy, and realizes, I forgot my iPad. Goes into the regional security office and says, I forgot my iPad and my bike. Calls a local public security bureau, and those guys call the guy that's got his iPad on his phone, on his cell phone, and say, can you bring the iPad back to the embassy? That's how wired Beijing is right now.
All right, so what do you guys think about that? That was the interview with the general discussing this, and this was a year and a half ago. I think that's just real interesting to hear. The one story that personally stuck out at me was when he talked about being on the bike in DC, and that the person that worked at the embassy left their iPod on the bike, and then another guy took the bike. But I don't know if you caught that. He didn't call the iPad. He didn't track the bike. He was able to track the phone that was in the guy riding the bike's pocket and call that specific phone. So imagine you get into a car that, someone leaves their stuff in the car, and they work for the embassy. They tell the embassy they leave their private stuff in there. You continue to drive, or your bike, or whatever you're on. And all of a sudden your phone rings. This is the government calling you, telling you there's a phone or an iPad in your back seat that needs to be returned. You never gave them the phone. That happened in DC. That is not going on. I mean, that is going on in places like Wuhan, China, or Hong Kong, but this is going on right here in America, in DC. So let me know what your thoughts are on is the threat of 5G, is it a real thing? Don't forget, put your comments below. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe on the podcast. We are on several different channels and networks now. We are on, let me look real quick. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Breaker. We are on Google Podcasts. We are on Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and of course on the Anchor platform, which we hold everything, which you can listen through the Spotify there. There's also a place in the front if you want to partner with New Creation Capital Podcast. You can hit the support button and partner with us. We really look forward to that. And there's a spot that you can leave us a message. Let me know what you think. Shoot us out a tweet at New Creation Cap, and we can continue to converse. Anyway, let's continue on with today's story. So, what are your thoughts on the 5G? So I decided to do a couple more Googling and came across some more recent articles. And when you Google 5G and what's going on outside of, the T-Mobiles, the AT&Ts, the Verizon, you started seeing these things out there where birds were dying and people in China are pulling down the 5G towers, or 5G towers are just popping up in schools or on light poles. And so I decided to look into it, and now you kind of see some press going out there to debunk it. And I came across a few articles just in general, so let's go over these articles. I'll leave links to all these articles in the description below. So we have an article from the sun.co.uk called Genesis. Okay, it's 5G is safe as scientists debunk deadly radiation conspiracy theories. Now, this was just written on March 12th, 2020, before all the lockdowns happened. And they basically, this whole thing is saying 5Gs are completely safe to use and won't damage your health. International experts have ruled. Now, when you hear experts, you can always get experts on both sides of the topic, right? Depending on who pays the most. You can get a doctor. I mean, remember in the 60s and 70s, doctors were saying smoking was safe for you, and they were really giving cigarettes out, smoking cigarettes in the rooms when you get examined. Now, I didn't live in that time. I'm born in the 80s, but if the 70s and 60s, everyone smoked cigarettes. I grew up seeing Joe Camel everywhere. There was always cigarettes. So, you know, I don't know when they say the experts say, without quoting the actual experts, or for us without us seeing actual studies, that can be a little, up and down. But the article real quick says, in a new ruling for March 2020, it decreed the radiation from 5G phones cannot cause harm under current guidelines. However, it toughened protections for higher 5G frequencies, about 6 gigahertz, a band not currently used in the UK. Remember, this article is from the UK, the sun.co.uk. We know parts of the community are concerned about the safety of 5G, and we hope the updated guidelines will help put people at ease, says Dr. Eric von Roggen, ICNIRP chairman. Then they got a little thing down here talking about the electromagnetic spectrum, doing all those things. So I'll put that below, and you can look that up, because it says here a little bit towards the lower, Britain now has a 5G network up and running, delivering ultra-fast speeds that are proving to be 10 times faster than 4G. So here's the thing that the general talked about. Some people just think 4G to 5G, it's faster, right? He talked about 3G in 2007, and now people doing 5G. But a lot of people are concerned because they think this lockdown might have something to do with that, right? And as we always hear, that I've been playing a lot for you recently, we hear,
you never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
So obviously, maybe even the 5G towers are kind of going to that. And that goes in with our next article that I came across by CNBC.com. It actually came out Friday, March 20th. And it is written by Todd Weiserman, and it's titled, Why the Coronavirus Pandemic May Fast Forward 5G Adoption in the U.S. And his key points here are, the coronavirus outbreak and the rise in remote work has advanced the need for more robust 5G technologies in the U.S. Point 2, Verizon issued a press release on Wednesday stating that the demand on bandwidth increased 75% over the previous week. Point 3 is the FCC and federal government are trying to accelerate deployment in urban and rural areas. Point 4, the global pandemic has forced a supply chain slowdown that may delay further expansion of 5G. It goes on to say, in March 2020, everything that could be moved online already has, from elementary schools to college classes, from entire company workforces to shareholder meetings. Whole cities have emptied under the coronavirus threat as businesses tell employees to work from home, students are sent indoors to learn online, and every type of entertainment from restaurants and sporting venues to movie theaters shutters, forcing people to stay home and rely on their home bandwidth networks to interact with the outside world. This switchover is unprecedented, which begs the question, can our current networks handle that or handle this strain? And that's the one thing. I know my internet is slowed down, but people are saying that they're using this coronavirus or COVID-19 threat on the lockdown to put all these things up. And so I don't know what you think so far about that, because it continues to say the jury is still out on whether home broadband, which tends to have lower capacity than more robust business networks, will be able to handle this traffic as everyone stays home. Providers including AT&T, Verizon, and Comcast are facing a test of whether they'll be able to handle the increased demand. You can find the rest of this, there's more in this article. The rest of this article, this is the one again by CNBC, is going to be in the description below. Now, there's also some, as we talked about, conspiracy theories out there. And here's another article out there that says, it's by the ibtimes.com, International Business Times, and it says The Dangers of 5G, and it's titled New Technology Draws Concerns for the Environment, Public Safety. And they go talking about that Maryland has recently been at the center of the 5G technology debate. Although the state's legislature is unlikely to fast-track 5G, officials from Baltimore to Montgomery County are debating where to place hundreds of new small cells, which are basically shorter cell towers, creating the backbone for the new 5G network. Many 5G antenna sites will be just feet away from residents' homes. Now, when I say feet away from residents' homes, if you Google 5G threat or Google 5G towers across the globe, you see different types of videos where birds are falling out of the sky, people cooking eggs, the radiation really, I guess, banging off of people's necks and bodies. You can hear it in the air. So it goes on to say, European media and published research have reported mounting evidence of environmental and public health hazards of wireless radiation from 5G and the Internet of Things. Now, we've talked about the Internet of Value. This is specifically talking about the Internet of Things. Yet the U.S. is moving full steam ahead to allow the deployment of over 800,000 antenna installations. Amid federal interaction on this ever-growing exposure, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Representative Anna G. Esho, Thomas Suzy, Daniel Lipinski, Andy Kim, and Peter A. DeFazio have all requested safety documents. In the U.S., the legislators of New Hampshire, Oregon, Louisiana, and Alaska appear to be among the few to take seriously the need to vet fully the new technology before releasing it to the entire nation. Now, people have been saying, there was something about Carrie Hilson talking about even Wi-Fi is bad. And my first thought was, how are you tweeting this out right now? How are you making this video? You're using Wi-Fi, you're using 4G on Verizon LTE. So we've kind of got used to doing this, and the question is it dangerous? But if you look up Vice News and look how China is being surveilled using 5G technology and to track everybody, it's kind of scary. So I don't know what you think about this, but when it comes to the environmental impacts of wireless networks in general, researchers report that exposure greatly affect the behavior and physiology of bees, reducing honey production because bees absorb the higher frequencies of 5G much more intensely. The future of agriculture could be in peril. Now, you guys know that bees have been, about 10 years ago? They're finding that bees are actually, the amount of bees in the environment is reducing. And as you guys know, bees do pollination, which cause crops to move and grow, and bees are pretty important to the ecosystem of our Earth. So if it's affecting the bees, it will work its way down the food chain or up the food chain, but it's directly giving people cancer as well, according to some studies and research. Now, the article of this, ibtimes.com, will be below in the descriptions. Now, to move on, we talked about 5G in China and the UK and DC, but there are also, according to this bravenewcoin.com article states, pandemic response prompts privacy concerns. Now, this was written by Kieran Smith on today, April 2nd, 2020. Now, you're going to listen to this podcast again on April 3rd, so this will be yesterday, but as of the time of this recording, it is April 2nd. And it starts like this. The response to the COVID-19 heralds a huge increase in technological surveillance. Many are worried that this trend will be difficult to reverse. Now, you hear the government always use the word temporary, just like with the gold standard when Reagan said, we will temporarily switch from, not Reagan, it was Reagan. It was either Reagan or Nixon. Temporarily move from the dollar to off the gold standard, but anything the government does is never temporary. So we know that this could be a long-term haul. And the article continues to say, from tracking citizens with apps and wristbands to using facial recognition and drones to spot people breaking out of quarantine, governments are employing powerful and intrusive tools to fight the pandemic. Tools that threaten individual privacy. This has prompted a strong reaction from some members of the cryptocurrency community. American whistleblower Edward Snowden, I'm sure you've heard of that, the guy with WikiLeaks, who leaked privacy abuses from U.S. security agencies, has warned that even when the coronavirus is gone, the intrusive measures are likely to remain. And I quote, when we see emergency measures passed, particularly today, they tend to be sticky, said Snowden in a virtual interview at the Copenhagen International Documentary Festival. The emergency tends to be expanded. Then the authorities become comfortable with some new power. Now, if you go back to the Obama administration, they really pushed the NSA surveillance. Then you go back to the Bush administration. After 9/11, they really pushed taking away our privacy. And so privacy is really important. And if you can see now that the government can just click on a button, call the phone in your pocket based on your location. There was a tweet by, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'll have to go through and look, but a tweet by this guy, this company who does cell phone technology, SEO, and moving things. They actually showed how the coronavirus could spread from Florida across the country, literally tracking people's cell phones from the beaches of Florida to where they went. And I just saw in an article that out of 60 people from the University of Texas that went to Florida on spring break and came back, 44 of them now have coronavirus, and they were able to track them exactly to where they were, when they left, time for time, minute for minute. Even on my app, when I do like a walking or a running or a biking act, it can really track me within 2 feet of my destination. So imagine the government having that power. And yes, we have given them over with Snapchat and IGs and TikToks and Facebooks and the WeChats and the Telegrams. We've kind of given over our privacy. But now the government, as Snowden has pointed out before, over 10 years ago, that we can be spied from our computers, from our webcams, without our permission. They can look at it without us even knowing, which is kind of creepy and scary. And now 5G just pushes this forward. As you see, the first place for 5G to launch was Wuhan. Just Google it, Wuhan, China. Right when they locked everybody down, they moved it from a 4G network to a 5G network almost overnight. So they're pushing this forward despite what we think. So let me know your questions. Let me know your concerns. Let me know what you think about this topic. Do you believe 5G is a threat not only to our social safety and our physical safety, but our privacy by the government? Now, I'm a personal believer that anything that can help slow a virus down or a disease down, I'm all for. But where I kind of draw the line is when the government steps in and puts that help, in quotations, you can't see it, but I put that in quotations, that help to push into our personal lives moving forward. Now, we talked about the digital dollar, and the fact that they're wanting to move away from fiat or cash in the first place is to use the blockchain and the distributed ledger technology to track everything we do with our money, to track everything we do, period. From buying a piece of bread to our internet activity. You can already see when you Google something or speak something through your phone, all of a sudden you're getting ads talking about what it looked up. I was texting with my girlfriend the other day, and I said, man, I really want to order some food. It's dinner time. All of a sudden, I get a message on my Google app on my phone that says, hey, it's dinner time. Do you want to order something? I didn't even talk to Google. It was through a text message. So the government is already able to do that. You hear about Amazon's Echo device that you say, hey, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're recording all your conversations. So the fact that they're, hey, Siri, hey, whatever it may be, is all set to your response to that, then talk to you back, right? However, in order for them to respond, they had to be listening the whole time. So the fact that they're keeping all that information in a database on the blockchain, your privacy is already gone. So what do you guys think? Do you really care about your privacy? Is 5G a threat? Again, please respond back on New Creation Cap on our Twitter and let me know what you think, or leave a comment below. If you're on YouTube right now, make sure to hit the little button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below. All the articles we talked about today are in the description below, so follow on, let me know. Again, this is episode 11. We have made it 10 episodes through on episode 11, and every day just keeps getting more and more interesting. We moved from the stimulus bill with COVID-19, which Stephen Mnuchin today said they're going to even help the unbanked get money today by if you filed your taxes or if you didn't file your taxes, they're going to try to get you within 2 to 3 weeks. Also now the banks are getting unlimited loan and money through the $6 trillion stimulus that was passed. President Donald Trump has pretty much taken over the Fed in itself. We hear the IMF is moving forward, so things are moving towards that, and we will continue to move on and talk about on-demand liquidity and the different things in the stock market. But for now, the question of this specific episode, episode 11 of the New Creation Capital Podcast, is 5G a threat? Do you believe it is a threat? So let me know what you think. Thank you guys for listening. And as I always do before we go, I like to read you one verse from Scripture. Today's Scripture will be Psalm 68, verse 28, and it goes like this. Summon your power, God. Show us your strength, our God, as you have done before. And I pray out there for everybody that God shows us his strength and takes over this invisible enemy, the COVID-19, from fear, from panic, from death. Today, we have had over 1 million confirmed cases worldwide. We hear that our doctors here in the U.S. are talking about 100 to 250,000 possible deaths. I know people personally now where their family has passed from the COVID-19. I know people in my town that have COVID-19. So the disease is real, and although we know Robert Emanuel has stated never let a crisis go to waste, and we see 5G moving, we see the banks moving, this is still real life for all of us out there. So I hope you guys stay safe. I continue to pray for you. I hope for those who pray and that are Christians that you put your power out there, you shed your light out there, and those who are not Christians, that you continue to put that positivity out there in the world, that you can continue to be kind to your neighbor and love on your neighbor, because in these times we're all on lockdown or quarantine, the over 2 billion people in the world now, that all we have right now is each other and our God. So thank you guys for listening. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and several others. And until next time, guys, as I always like to say, buy low, sell high. This is a new you, a new future, and a new creation. Until next time, guys, peace and love. Later.